Thanks for proving my point, Dr. CFP. They make this too easy. So I'm going to show you first and foremost a comment that Penelope had on my channel yesterday, because I want to kind of get into the second part of this too. Because remember, I did a video yesterday showing how tariffs are working, right? And because we had a guy that ended up paying $1,000 extra bucks on a Mexican end table he bought or something like that. And he's griping about, oh my goodness, blah, blah, blah. And then I said, hey, there's a way to avoid tariffs. Hire American. Believe it or not, there's tons of woodworkers out there in the good old US of A. I know it's crazy, but there are tons out there, guys. Tons. I have clients. Anyway, Penelope pipes in to say, this is funny. And I love Penelope. She crushes. But, she's in California, so, not the brightest bulbs out there, as this guy is, who I'm going to reference here in just a second, too. Penelope says, oh, so to avoid tariffs, find someone in the U.S. who makes an end table. Got it. Now, why didn't I think of that, says Penelope sarcastically. Maybe because I already know it would be 6 times as expensive. I said, wow, you people in California really must live large, because you're going to pay $12,000 for an end table? Because remember, this guy, Mexican end table is $2,000. You're going to pay $12,000 for an end table, Penelope? Jeez, I need to get the kind of lifestyle you're living, because that's ridiculous. All right. Obviously, Penelope did not shop around to see what an American woodworker can do for an end table. Certainly not going to be $12,000. Anyway, so let's go to this right here. And you will see right there. Oops, hold on a second. Hold on a second, amigos. Blink. There you go. NBC News television story about the tariffs on our Mexican table. Good to know that we contributed $1,200 to the government's $50 billion surplus. Kind of wish the tariff was paid by someone other than an American consumer. Hey. As originally promised, waiting breathlessly for the MAGA outrage. Hold on a second. What's this guy saying? He's saying that the U.S. surplus grew at the backs of the U.S. consumer. U.S. consumer was debited, in this case $1,200, and it went to the revenue of the U.S. government, $1,200. It's just an accounting. It's literally just what it is, an accounting mechanism. You debit one, you credit the other. One goes down, the other goes up. So he's down $1,200. The U.S. government is up $1,200. He is taking a deficit of $1,200, and the U.S. government has a surplus of $1,200. Now let's put that in a different perspective. The U.S. government takes a deficit of $1,200, and the American consumer gets a surplus of $1,200. The same accounting mechanism here. Debits and credits, debits and credits. So if your taxes, in this case a tariff, you want to call it tax, it's stupid because it's not a tax, because you can avoid this tax. But we'll just, for the time being, say you are taxed $1,200 and went in the coffers of the U.S. government, they now have a $1,200 surplus. You have the deficit, they got a surplus, all right? It evens out. So when the government takes a deficit, they have a deficit of $1,200. You get the credit for $1,200. We're debiting the government account, we're crediting yours. You see how that works? It's the same thing. This is where the modern monetary theory makes sense, if you think about it. Oh, it's such a liberal thing. That's where they try to get you. It's liberals, oh, Josh, you're liberal. No. If the government takes the deficit, somebody else gets the credit, the surplus. That would be you, the consumer. Now people say, yeah, but the Chinese own our bonds. They don't even own $1 trillion of our debt. They don't. The Japan owns like $1.2 trillion of our debt. That's it. We own the vast majority of the government debt. Thus, when the government takes a debt, they take a deficit, which finances a deficit, which contributes to the debt. All right, taking a deficit, which contributes to the debt, we are getting the credit. They're debiting the government, we're getting the credit. That's how it works, man. Now, again, I wish we didn't have any Chinese or Japanese own our bonds, or Brits or Limeys or anything, but they do, but not as many as we own. So if your deficit is going to the surplus of the government, inherently the deficit of the government is going into the surplus of you. That's how it works. But that's going to lead to mass inflation, Josh. When? Well, 2020. Oh, so we weren't having massive deficits before that under Reagan? Huh? We weren't having massive deficits in the 08, 09 to all the way basically forevermore. It's only in 2020 that we had massive deficits or massive spending that led to this. I've done a million things on M2 money supply. I'm not going to do it here. It's not just not because it's silly. If that were true, then we'd have had massive inflation all the way up. We just haven't, dude. It hasn't happened. In fact, right now the inflation is moderating to going lower than historical averages as well. You can argue that. You can say, oh, the inflation numbers are corrupt, whatever. I don't care. But you're just wrong. In terms of how they measure inflation, CPI. And again, the biggest component of inflation is what? Housing. The owner's equivalent rent and whatnot, which is stupid. Anyway, I hear this all the time, and I'm like, oh, we got to pay down our debt. Well, if we're going to pay down our debt, we're going to pay with taxes. How do we do that? We raise the taxes on you. So if this guy right here is saying we need to have more responsible government spending, well, we're going to have to do a tax raise. Or we're going to have to cut spending, one of those two things. But I guarantee if we cut spending, he wouldn't be happy. If we raise taxes, he wouldn't be happy. So essentially, this is where we are. No one is going to pay down the debt. Why? Because there is no political will to do it. Because a guy like this says, oh, it cost me $1,200 to raise the debt, to raise the surplus. I wish somebody else would have paid it. Someone else didn't. No one had to pay it, their guy, Dr. CFP. You could have avoided it by hiring an American woodworker for 6 times what a Mexican would have paid. What would have paid a Mexican? I don't think so. All right, God bless. Love your thoughts. We'll see you.